I'm asking about that last class, what I already discussed that a lot.
Ma'am, your voice is cracking. I'm not able to hear you.
Already, uh, yes or no? Rajlakshmi,
Yes, ma'am.
you lost your network connection trying to reconnect. नेट भी है डिस्टर्ब हो रहा है एक्चुअली वॉइस भी क्रैक हो रहा है कनेक्टेड Good evening, all. May I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Audible, ma'am.
Good evening. Shall we start the class? Thank you so much. Thank you. Do not disturb the phone. Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Thank you, brother. मैं जा रही हूँ कंप्लीट करने के लिए. एक्चुअली हेलो.
Yes, ma'am.
मैं हॉस्पिटल में हूँ ना, इसलिए थोड़ा नेटवर्क का प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है इधर एम्स में. ड्यू टू दैट ओनली.
Okay, ma'am. Now audible.
ओके. Yesterday, I already discussed about the different types of muscles, different types of tissue and cells, and what is cartilage, what is ligament, what is tendon, and what is bones. Okay, and today I will discuss. May I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Today, and I also discuss about the nervous tissue also, and what the different types of muscles. Today, I will discuss about the blood. What is the definition of
Again, ma'am, your voice is not breaking again. Not clear. Not audible right now. No, ma'am.
what is the definition of blood? Now audible?
Yes,
Am
ma'am.
I
Right now.
audible?
Yes, ma'am. Right
Okay.
Yes,
now.
ma'am.
Okay. Tell me the
Ma'am,
definition. Tell me the definition of blood. What do you mean by blood?
it is a fluid connective
Yes, ma'am. Blood
Blood is
fluid
nothing.
connective
Blood is the
Fluid
fluid
connected.
is connecting tissue.
connective tissue. It is
Carry
made up of
oxygen
the.
throughout the blood.
Yes, very
Carry
good.
oxygen
Main,
throughout the blood.
हाँ,
Throughout
blood
our
is.
body.
हाँ, mainly blood is the fluid connective tissue. Okay,
Okay.
and mainly the
Yes.
main function of the blood is to it carries the oxygen and nutrient to the tissue and carries the waste product away from the body. Okay, and blood also helps maintain the body temperature and the normal pH level in our body. It protected the function of the blood, including to the clot formation and the prevention of the infection also. Okay. The composition of the blood is mainly made up of by the protein 0.8 percentage. In the protein content, you will got the fibrinogen. In the blood, if you will, the blood will be clot na, a thin thread-like structure will be formed. If you will be if you will be after the clotting of the blood, you will got the fibrinogen part of the blood, and in the protein part, you will got the main core protein is present inside our blood. That is the albumin part, globulin part, prothrombin part, and the fibrinogen parts. And in the blood also, it contains the water 91%, and salt is also associated with the blood, and 0.9% of the salt is also there. Mainly sodium chloride, magnesium, iron, phosphorus, salt of calcium, and sodium bicarbonate is there. And mainly blood is the fluid connective tissue. It is composed of the two parts. One is the fluid parts, and the intercellular fluid part is called as the plasma, and in which the blood cells or the corpuscles float. In the plasma part of the blood, it is the floating part, and mainly the plasma is the fluid part in which the cellular elements of the blood are suspended. And this plasma, it looks like the yellowish color, and its nature is alkaline. Its pH is the alkaline. It's not acidic nature. What is pH?
The hydrogen ion.
Negative hydrogen ion concentration. Okay. Normal pH of the blood is
7.
7.3 to 7.4.
7
0.3 to
point.
7.4.
And if it is alkaline, means its pH level will be increased up to what range? What is acidic, what is alkaline, and what is neutral?
Yes, 7 is actually neutral. 6 below 6 is acidic, and above 7 is alkaline.
Above 7 is alkaline. Very good. And our pH, the plasma part of the blood, it is the alkaline in nature, and it is mainly made up of by the 90% of the water and the 10% of the solutes is present in our plasma. In plasma, mainly the normal plasma is the protein in a concentration of 6 to 8 grams in the 100 ml of plasma. And mainly the protein present in the plasma, it mainly carries the enzymes, hormones, and the hormone binding proteins. And some of these proteins perform the specific function in the blood. It's mainly helpful for the maintaining of the cellular osmotic pressure of the blood, and also maintain the viscosity of the blood, and helps in the exchange of fluid across the capillary. These all are the function of the plasma protein inside our blood. And there are mainly three types of plasma protein is present inside our blood. One is the fibrinogen, and the content of the fibrinogen inside the blood is 0.3 gram in 100 ml of blood. And the albumin part is 4 to 5 gram in the 100 ml of blood, and the globulin is 2 to 3 grams in the 100 ml of blood. And the plasma albumin mainly maintains the plasma volume by holding water at the capillary level. And the fibrinogen mainly fibrinogen helps from the meshwork of the solid fibrin. Fibrin means thread-like structure that clots blood, and mainly it preventing the hemorrhagic excessive loss of blood. But in some cases, in some pathological condition, the fibrinogen content will be less. In that cases, bleeding will be more in the hemorrhagic cases. And the plasma globulin is the body defense against the invading pathogens. These three are the main plasma protein present inside our blood. And the function of the plasma protein. What is the main function, chief function of the plasma protein? Mainly, due to the presence of this plasma protein, it mainly acts as the transport. Main chief function is the transport. It mainly transporting the hormones and the several other small molecules traveling in the plasma on the epsilon get filtered in the renal glomeruli and get excreted in the urine also. And this wastage is prevented during the journey of this substance from their origin to the destination by their getting bound to the plasma protein. And mainly the main function of this plasma protein is it acts as the antibodies. That means plasma protein belonging to the class of the Y globulin act as the antibodies, and which protect us from the severe types of different types of infections and the several other harmful substances also. And the other chief function of the plasma protein is it acts as the protein reservoir. That means plasma protein provides a reservoir which can be drawn upon for vital function in the situation of starvation and protein depletion and the malnutrition. At that time, this plasma protein acts as the protein reservoir during the starvation, during the malnutrition. And also it acts as the osmotic pressure. That means plasma protein exerts an osmotic pressure of 25 mmHg, which helps in mainly it helps in the maintaining the plasma volume. And it acts as the viscosity. Plasma protein accounts for about half of the viscosity of the blood, and the other half being due to the blood cells. And these all are the functions of the plasma protein. And the cells of the blood, mainly the blood cells. In our blood now we found the three types of cells. It is called as these cells is otherwise called as the corpuscles. Blood cells is otherwise called as the corpuscles, and in the blood there are mainly three types of corpuscles is there. One is the RBC, another one is the WBC, and the third one is the platelet. Red blood corpuscles is otherwise called as the erythrocyte, and the WBC is otherwise called as the leukocytes, and the platelet it is otherwise called as the thrombocytes. These all are thrombocytes. These are the blood cells. First, I will discuss about the RBC. RBC is otherwise called as the erythrocytes. What is erythrocyte? Erythrocyte is the composition of two words. One is the erythro and another one is the cytes. Erythro means red and the cytos means cells. And all the RBC cells are mainly biconcave in shape. Okay. And this mainly the biconcave shape is can squeeze through the narrow space by bending along the middle. And the biconcave shape implies a large surface to volume ratio, and which increase the mainly efficiency of oxygen transfer across the RBC membrane. And mainly this RBC can swell quite bit before bursting in a hypotonic solution. This is the RBC, and mainly this RBC occupy about 45% of the blood volume. Inside our blood, it occupies 45%, and the concentration of the hemoglobin in the blood is about 15 gram per 100 ml of the blood. And the average volume of the RBC is called the MCV, mean corpuscular volume. What is main corpuscular hemoglobin concentration is the amount of hemoglobin per unit volume of red cells mass expressed as the percentage. This is all about your RBC, erythrocytes, red blood corpuscles. And what is the function of erythrocytes? Mainly these erythrocytes, due to the presence of these RBC cells inside our body, it mainly acts as the transportation of the oxygen, and it is possible by the high affinity which the hemoglobin has for the oxygen. And these RBC mainly contain the hemoglobin, a protein that binds oxygen. And due to the hemoglobin, it also carries mainly 1.34 cc of the oxygen. Okay, and this RBC can carry the oxygen from one part of the body to other part of the body. And this is also the mainly this being the metabolic limits, the concentration not rises above. And when the blood contains an average of the 16 gram per deciliter of hemoglobin in the male, I already discussed about this, in the concentration of hemoglobin in the male is more than that of the female, and the female is having the only 14 gram of blood hemoglobin in the 100 ml of blood, but the male contains more hemoglobin content, because in every month in every month the females are mainly every month they are having the cycle, and each cycle they are losing 45 ml of blood in each menstrual cycle. The loss of the amount of the blood is 45 ml. Due to that only the hemoglobin content of the female is less than that of the male. Okay, that is the reason. And and also this mainly not only it carries the oxygen, this erythrocyte, it also carries the CO2 also, and maintain the pH of the blood also. And the lifespan of this RBC is only 120 days. Okay, this is all about your RBC. And what is WBC? WBC is nothing. WBC is otherwise called as the leukocytes. It is mainly colorless, and they are the army of the human body. All of you know about this. Whenever the germ or any kind of infection enters in our body, this WBC, white blood corpuscles, snaps to attention and mainly destroy the culprit. And the primary function is to produce the antibodies. These antibodies is called as the humoral immunity, which immunity is produced inside our body, and this is the humoral immunity, or kill the invading bacteria directly. And this means act as the humoral immunity. And mainly these WBC are divided into two types. Basically, one is the granulocytes, another one is the agranulocytes. Under the microscope, if you will look at the WBC, they are mainly classified into the numbers of different types of cells present in the WBC. One is the lymphocytes, monocytes. Lymphocytes, monocytes are the A granulocytes, and basophil, eosinophil, neutrophil is called as the granulocytes. These WBC is mainly divided into two types of granular in the cytoplasm. One is the granulocytes, another one is the A granulocytes. In the A granulocyte, you will got the monocytes and the lymphocyte. But in the granulocyte, that the three types of cells is present. One is the basophil, eosinophils, and the neutrophils. And they are different from each other according to their size, granules, nucleus, nucleolar, cytoplasmic ratio. And the normal value of the monocyte is 3 to 8%, and the lymphocyte is 20 to 40%, and the normal value of the eosinophil is 2 to 4%. In the neutrophil, the normal range of the neutrophil is 50 to 70%, and the basophil is 0.5 to 1%. But it is not fixed for everyone. In some cases of it is not fixed for everyone because of in any kind of pathological or physiological changes takes place inside our body at that time. Otherwise, if any kind of infection will be there, it may be bacterial infection, viral infection, or other kind of infection. In that cases also, these parameters, these granulocytes and the agranulocyte cells will be increases all these size. If someone is affected by the microbacterial tuberculosis, in that case also the cells of the neutrophil and the lymphocytes will be increases. In the viral infection also, the cells of these granulocytes and the agranulocyte cells will be increases. But unless until any kind of infection will be not there, in that case, that all the value of these parameters means that the granulocytes, that basophil, monocytes, lymphocytes, and that neutrophil, every level will be within the range. That means within the normal level. Unless until any kind of infection will not there, the level will be not changes. It will be remain normal. Buji?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
अनिरुद्ध स्वाई बुझी पारुछन्ते okay and mainly the monocytes is the largest one, and the WBC mainly measuring 2 to 3 times of the RBC, and monocytes leave the cells and become the macrophages. And the lymphocytes in our inside our blood, the equal amount of cytoplasm, and that lymphocytes mainly it occupies the major parts of the cell. And the lymphocytes are extraordinary diverse in their function, and the lymphocytes are mainly two types of lymphocytes is there. One is the T cells of lymphocytes, and this T cells is otherwise called as the T lymphocytes, and another one is the B cells lymphocytes. It is called as the B lymphocytes. In the basophil is the mainly purple coarse granules, and these basophils makes up only a small portion of the number of WBC, and but are in the important part of the body immune response. And mainly due to the presence of this basophil, it mainly releases the histamine and other chemicals that act on the blood vessels when the immune response is triggered. Due to the presence of this basophil only the histamine will be released from our body. What is histamine? Histamine कहले हम कौन बुझिबा?
Allergic some histamine, body resistant.
Very good. देखिए बेले बेले कभी कभी क्या होता है ना, कभी कभी एलर्जिक शुरू होता है ड्यू टू द व्हाट रिलीज ऑफ दिस हिस्टामाइन ओनली. दैट्स व्हाई हम लोग को जब भी कोई भी एलर्जिक होता है ना, हम लोग जब कंसल्टेंट के पास जाते हो तो वो इमीडिएटली शुरू करता है एंटी हिस्टामाइनिक ड्रग्स. ओके, and like levocetirizine, cetirizine, these all are the antihistaminic drugs. And due to the release of this histamine only, हमारा जो खुजली and any kind of infection skin में जो हो रहा है ना, due to this release of this histamine only. And due to the presence of this basophil is mainly responsible for the release of a chemical substance is the histamine. And this next cell is our eosinophil, and eosinophil's color is the brick red coarse granules like structure. and it is bilobed in nature, bilobed spectacle shaped nucleus, and the number of the eosinophil is 2 to 4 only, and in some cases it may be increases, like if in some allergy cases, or if in some cases of the worm infection, or any kind of parasitic or in the infestation or any kind of disease condition, also the eosinophil level will be increases. This is all about your WBC. And the next cell of the blood is your platelet. And this platelet, the third cells are the very smallest cell and formed by the pinching of a very large bone marrow cell called the megakaryocytes. And platelet are mean very small plate. And the platelet form a clot to stop the bleeding when an injury disturbs the lining of the blood vessels. And the diameter is about 2 to 3 micrometer. And what is the function of this platelet? Mainly the chief function of the platelet is the or the platelet is otherwise called as the thrombocytes also. And this platelet is mainly responsible for the stop the loss of blood from the wound. That means it acts as a homeostasis in nature. And the platelet, it mainly releases the chemical substance is called as the serotonin. And that serotonin is mainly responsible for the vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction means contraction or means constriction of your blood vessels, and this ensures reduce the flow of blood from the injured side. And mainly due to the presence of this platelet only, a chemical substance is released. Its name is the serotonin, and this serotonin is act as the vasoconstriction, and this mainly ensure the reduce the flow of blood from the injured side, and aggregate to block the vascular block at site of injury. And mainly the skeletal muscle, two types of proteins is there, actin and myosin. In the skeletal muscle, for the contraction and relaxation of the muscles, the actin and myosin protein is mainly responsible, and that actin and myosin is mainly controlled to bring about the clot retraction. And mainly this ensure normal flow of the blood around the still injured blood vessels. And in the plaque formed by the platelet arrests the bleeding. And this time taken for the blood to cease the flowing from the injured site is called as the bleeding time. And the clotting, before operation, two tests, every doctor are there, check the two pathological tests, that is the bleeding time and clotting time. Bleeding time means जब हमारा जहाँ भी एक wound होता है या कोई इंजुरी होता है, तो from the site of injury the blood will be come out from that particular place. And the time period of the bleeding, starting of the blood oozing from that injured site up to the clot formation, it is called as the bleeding time. And the clotting time is the time taken for the clot to form, in terms as the clotting time. Before operation, this test is very vital. This is all about your cells of the blood, WBC, RBC, and the platelets. Now I will discuss about the erythropoiesis. What is erythropoiesis? Erythro means red and poiesis means making. Erythropoiesis is derived from the words erythro means red in color and poiesis means is the making. Erythropoiesis mainly hemopoiesis, the formation of blood cells in general. It's erythro means, you know that erythro is the meaning is the red and poiesis is the making. That means the formation of the blood cells is called as the erythropoiesis. And mainly the hemopoietic stem cells. These hemopoietic stem cells is the cell capable of the rapid proliferation accompanied by the differentiation. And this is mainly for the proper proliferation and the maturation and the differentiation of the cells. This is mainly responsible. And the differentiation of the THSC is associated with the subtle biochemical changes takes place inside our body, which eventually results in the cell committed to forming a specific variety of blood cells. Mainly inside our blood, the process of proliferation, differentiation continues till the mature blood cell and incapable of the proliferation are formed. Okay. In general, process of the proliferation and the progressive differentiation leads to an important question, like if the process of differentiation affect every daughter cell, then in that case क्या होता है ना, it's incapable of the dividing. The cells, the daughter cell will not divide properly. Then during the erythropoiesis process, various changes takes place during the age-related differences, like the during the IUI means intrauterine life period. May in the early embryo, and erythropoiesis occurs in the mainly mesodermal part of the yolk sac, and after in a few weeks na, the process shifts to the mesoderm of the body, and during this stage na, the erythropoiesis is intravascular. That means it takes place inside our blood vessels, and it takes place by some endothelial cells undergoing the transformation into the blood cells and detaching themselves from the vessels walls to enter the circulation. After the fourth intrauterine month, the fetal bone marrow also start functioning the manufacturing the this blood cells. After the intrauterine means 4 months of the intrauterine periods, and after the third intrauterine month, na, the erythropoiesis in the mesenchymal tissue and between the blood vessels and the tissue cells. And in the extrauterine means outside, occurring outside the uterus, erythropoiesis is medullary, that is in the bone marrow. Red cells, white cells, platelet are made in the marrow of the bones. And regulation of the erythropoiesis. Mainly this erythropoiesis is regulated by this process. Mainly the factors regulating the erythropoiesis are mainly the erythropoietin. What is erythropoietin? Erythropoietin is the one type of protein, and it is called as the glycoprotein, and it is mainly released predominantly from the kidney in response to the tissue hypoxia. What is hypoxia?
Deficiency of oxygen in the cell.
Ma'am, oxygen deficiency at the tissue level.
Oxygen saturation level will be
Less.
decreases. Hypoxia. What is hypoxia? Hypoxia.
मैम जब ब्लड में ऑक्सीजन बहुत ज्यादा मतलब उसका अमाउंट बहुत कम हो जाता है when there is too little oxygen available in the blood.
That is what?
Hypoxia.
Very good. What is hypoxia?
Low oxygen level in circulation, bloodstream.
Hypo means what? Hypo means
Less.
Low.
Low.
low. Hyper means
Low.
excess.
High.
Hyper means excess and hypo means less.
Low.
Okay. And erythropoietin is nothing. Erythropoietin is the one type of glycoprotein, and it is mainly released from the predominantly from the kidney. And the kidney release mainly this erythropoietin cells is present inside our nephron in the response to the tissue hypoxia. And when the hemoglobin concentration of the blood will be decreases, na, the oxygen tension in the tissue also what falls. At last, slightly the kidney also said this fall in the tissue oxygen tension and respond to secreting the hormone also, and this erythropoietin into the bloodstream. The low tension of the oxygen in the blood in the renal artery leads to release of the erythropoietin. And this erythropoietin is also released by the isolated kidney if it is perfused with the hypoxic fluid. And erythropoiesis mainly continues fairly normally even after the removal of the both the kidney. जो मानकर जिस लोगों का होता है ना kidney transplantation, in that case is very common. And estrogen, androgen, thyroxine, cortisol, and the growth hormone, neural control, and the product of hemolysis, dietary factors also. Regulation of erythropoiesis is first one is the erythropoietin. Second one is estrogen. Estrogen is mainly responsible for the inhibitory effect on the erythropoiesis. And androgen. Similarly, androgen is the male hormone, and the men have a high red cells count than that of the women. And the difference between the sexes appears at the puberty, and some changes also takes place after puberty. Androgens are likely to at least mainly it stimulate, if not regulate, the erythropoiesis. And these hormones like the GH growth hormone, cortisol hormones, and the thyroxine hormone, the deficiency of these hormones is mainly associated with the anemia. Okay, and these hormones mainly stimulate the erythropoiesis process, and this possibly by increasing the oxygen consumption of tissue and promoting the tissue hypoxia, and this tissue hypoxia in turn stimulate the erythropoietin production also. Neural control, that means some controversial experimental evidence, mainly the hypothalamus in the brain, inside brain hypothalamic part is there, and the hypothalamic cells is also present in there, that may sense hypoxia and respond to it, stimulating the erythropoiesis through the neurohumoral mechanism. And dietary factors is also one of the major factor, like for the erythropoiesis. Amino acids are required for the synthesis of the globulin, and iron for the synthesis of the heme, and the vitamin B12 and folic acid for the maturation of the RBC, that is the RBC precursor. Therefore, a deficiency of any of these factors reduces the erythropoietic activity, and if the erythropoietic activity is low due to the dietary deficiency, the activity can be stimulated by the providing the deficient nutrient. And product of hemolysis. What is hemolysis? What is hemolysis?
Breakdown of hemoglobin.
Heme means what?
It means iron.
What do you mean by heme?
In iron, ma'am.
Heme is the hemoglobin, iron part of the body.
Globin is the
Hemolysis.
protein.
Yes, hemolysis. Lysis is what? Lysis is the breakdown.
Breakdown.
Breakdown. And the product of the hemolysis is mainly the controversial whether the product released by the RBC cells stimulate and inhibit the erythropoiesis or do not affect the process at all also. And some product of the red cells may be exerting a feedback effect on the erythropoiesis. What is blood group?
Four A, B, O, AB, positive, negative.
How many blood groups is there?
4 types of blood group and positive.
Only 4 types blood group is there.
A, B, O, B.
A, B, O, B.
Ma'am,
And subgroup also there.
8 types of blood groups are there.
A, B, AB.
The RH factor.
Yes, very good. In the human blood, कुछ problem हो रहा है? Aniruddha?
Yes, ma'am.
Blood groups, mainly in the human blood, due to the presence or absence of certain proteins molecules called the antigen and antibody. Okay, inside the blood is the fluid connective tissue and it contains the protein molecule. It is the antigen and the antibody. Mainly these antigens are located on the surface of the RBC, and the antibody is present inside our plasma part of the blood only. And individually have different types and combination of these molecules. And blood group specifically, the based on the type of antigen present on the surface of our RBC, red blood corpuscles. And in our body, there are more than 30 antigens is present, but for the purpose of blood transfusion, very few of them are practically significant. Okay, and in the In the blood group, specifically A, B, O, and RS grouping is there, and sometimes the mismatch reaction will be takes place. And deciding on the ABO and RH grouping, cross matching of the donors and the receptant bloods is very important, and that is called as the ABO and RH grouping. Okay, ABO blood grouping system. What is ABO blood grouping system? Mainly in our this ABO blood group, the presence or the absence of 9 antigen A, B on the surface of the red blood corpuscles. If either on these antigens is present on the surface of the RBC, it can be react with the corresponding antibody. That means reaction between the a blood group antigen and its corresponding antibody lead to clumping. Clumping means clumping is nothing. It's the agglutination takes place of the RBC, and the blood groups antigens are known as the agglutinogens, and the corresponding antibody is present inside our plasma part of the blood, and these antibodies are known as the agglutinins. One is the agglutinogens and another one is the agglutinins. Okay. And mainly now the ABO blood typing system, there are mainly 4 kinds of blood types, mainly A, B, AB, and O. 4. That means if you are having the blood group is A, and it means you have the antigen A on the surface of your RBC and B antibody in your blood plasma. Okay. If you are having the blood group B, means B antigen on your surface of your RBC, red blood corpuscles, and A antigen in your blood plasma. Okay. One will be present on your RBC and the other one will be present on your plasma plot. That means if you are having the blood group is B, that means this B antigen on the surface of your RBC and the A antibody in your blood plasma. And if you are having the blood group of AB, that means you are having the 2 types of antigens is present inside your blood group. That means it contains the antigen A and the antigen B on the surface of your RBC cells, and no A or B antibody at all in your blood plasma. If you are belongs to the blood group O, means neither A nor B antigen on your surface of your RBC, but you have both AB antibodies in your blood plasma. Okay, and this is all about your blood group. And this mainly this 2 types of blood, universal donor blood group is there and universal receptor is also there. Okay. This O group mainly O group individuals are mainly sometimes considered as the universal donor, and the blood group having the AB, it is called as the universal acceptor. And the blood group and the universal receptant and the donor acceptor, blood group AB means you are having the antigen A and antigen B, and in the blood group AB, the antibodies none is present and can give the blood to the having the blood group of A or B, and can receive the blood. If those who are having the blood group AB, means they can receive the blood from the O group also, B group also, and A group also, AB group also. If someone is having the blood group O, means its antigen is none, and antibody is having 2 types of antibody is present in the blood group O, both A and the B. And KB can give the blood to the AB blood group, A blood group, B blood group, and O blood group also. And those who are having the O blood group, now they can receive the blood from the O blood group family only. And that blood group, those who are having the blood group B, now they can, their antigen is B, and the antibody is having the A, and that can give the blood to the AB blood group and the blood group B also, and can receive the blood from the B and O also. And what is the RS blood grouping system? RS blood grouping system means in this is some individuals are having the RS antigen on the surface of their RBC. Those who are either is called the RS positive And those who are do not have it, it is called as the Rh negative. Means if agglutination will be takes place na, then it is called as the positive. If agglutination will be not, then it is indicate the negative. Okay, and this is the basis of the Rh blood grouping system. A person with the Rh negative blood does not have the Rh antibodies naturally in the blood plasma, but a person with the Rh negative blood can develop the Rh antibody in the blood plasma if he or she receives the blood from a person with the Rh positive blood. But those who are having the Rh antigen can trigger the production of Rh antibody also. What is Rh incompatibility? Rh incompatibility means it's nothing, it is the mismatch of the transfusion of blood is called as the Rh incompatibility. If a person is having the Rh negative is given to Rh positive blood, there is no immediate adverse reaction because of the Rh negative individuals do not normally have anti-Rh antibody which may damage the donor red cells. But the donor red cells induces the immune response in the recipient. As a result, the anti-Rh antibodies are synthesized, and it takes 2 to 4 months before a high titration of anti-Rh antibodies are mainly achieved. Rh incompatibility, erythroblastosis fatalis. Erythroblastosis fatalis means the risk of mismatch reaction during the second or during any subsequent blood transfusion, giving the Rh positive blood into the risk in the case of young Rh negative girls. This is because of the possibility of the complication during the pregnancy. If the girls happens to have a Rh negative fetus in her uterus, anytime later in life, the chance of any abnormality resulting from the Rh incompatibility are negligible during the first pregnancy, 3% during the second, and 10% during the third. Okay, this is called as the erythroblastosis fatalis, and those who are having the Rh positive fetus in her uterus, but they are having very prone towards this type of erythroblastosis fatalis. And the RBC of the fetus are unable to cross the normal placenta. There is to some abnormality in the placenta before fetal red cells can enter the maternal circulation. And mainly now the fetal red cells may be destroyed by the maternal plasma before they can induce an antibody response. That is if the mother is O blood group and Rh negative and the fetus is A. Rh positive, the fetal red cells will be hemolyzed. That means breakdown of the blood will be takes place by the anti-A antibodies present in the maternal plasma. And if the fetus and mother happens to be the same group, if they are having the blood group of the AB, but mother is having the Rh negative and the fetus is having the Rh positive, at that time now what happened in the second and the subsequent means next stage of the pregnancy, the mother gets the sensitive with the Rh antigen of the fetal blood and mainly resulting in producing of the anti-Rh antibodies, and it mainly destroys the RBC and cause the erythroblastosis fatalis. And in the Rh incompatibility case, as a very complication case, in that case, it leads to the loss of the blood. There is another condition in Rh incompatibility, the condition where the RBC is very less and deficient, and it is called as the anemia. What is anemia? Anemia is nothing. Anemia is the deficiency of the RBC due to the rapid loss of the sole production of the red blood corpuscles. It is called as the anemia. And there are mainly 5 types of anemia is there. One is the hemolytic anemia, another one is the megaloblastic anemia, third one is the iron deficiency anemia, fourth one is a hemorrhagic or bloodless anemia, and the last one is your aplastic anemia. Okay, this is a very important question. All of you attentively listen it. There are mainly 5 types of anemia is present, and out of that, one is the hemorrhagic anemia, second one is the iron deficiency anemia, megaloblastic anemia, and a hemolytic anemia, and the last one is the aplastic anemia. What is iron deficiency anemia? In general, in our diet, sometimes the dietary intake of the poor absorption of the iron takes place inside our intestine, and abnormal loss of the iron from the body. For example, during the in hemorrhagic cases or during the menstruation also, or after the delivery also, and during the lactational period also, loss of hemoglobin. The RBC mainly in this condition are very smaller than the normal and have an increased zone of central pallor. And this is the indicative of the hypochromic microcytic anemia. Hypochromic microcytic anemia means less hemoglobin in each RBC. Okay, each RBC contains very less amount of hemoglobin, and there is a microcytic, smaller size of each RBC anemia. There is also increased anisocytosis, means variation in the size in the poikilocytosis, variation in the shape also. What is hemolytic anemia? Hemolytic means it mainly occurs due to the various reasons and situation. In general, the tendency is that the fragile cell structures when they pass through the spleen, and at that time this hemolytic anemia will be occur. The fragile cells mainly rupture, and when they pass through the spleen, at that time you can saw the hemolytic anemia, and this is the hereditary in nature. Okay, in megaloblastic anemia, there is mainly the deficiency of the vitamin B12, folic acid, intrinsic factor of stomach mucosa, and slow down the production of the erythroblastosis. କାହାର admission ଥିଲା? ଦେଇଦେଲା, date ଦେଇଦେଲା? ଚାରିଟାରେ ଦେବେ ବୋଲି କହିଥିଲେ। ତାମାନେ admission slip କାହା ଅଣ୍ଡରରେ କଲେ? ଦେଇଦେଲେ ନା, କେବେ ଆପଣ ଟ୍ରାଏ କରିଥିଲେ? 12 ଦିନ କୋର୍ସେସ୍ କଲା ପରେ ବେଡ୍ ମିଳିଲା।
ଆପଣ ଏଡି ପାଇ ଯାଇଛନ୍ତି ରୁମ୍ ନା କଣ?
ଅନଲାଇନ୍ କ୍ଲାସ୍ ଥିଲା ତ।
ଡକ୍ୟୁମେଣ୍ଟ ଦେଇ ଯାଇଥିବେ ସବୁ ପଠେଇ ଦେଇଥିବେ ମୋର ଆମର ସବୁ
ଦେଇଦେଇଛି।
କ୍ଲାସ୍ କର।
What is megaloblastic anemia? In the megaloblastic anemia, the mainly the less availability of the vitamin B12 in our diet and the folic acid deficiency, intrinsic factor of the stomach, mainly the mucosa, slow down the production of the erythroblast, and that occurs in the bone marrow. Okay, in the megaloblastic anemia cases, mainly due to the deficiency of folic acid and the intrinsic factor of stomach mucosa and the deficiency of the vitamin B12, slow down the production of the erythroblast. Erythroblast is produced from the bone marrow, and hence these cells grows too large with odd-shaped cells, and it's called as the megaloblast. And these erythroblasts cannot be proliferate rapidly to form the enough RBC. And the cells which are formed are mostly oversized and bezier-shaped and a fragile membrane also. It is called as the megaloblastic anemia. In the iron deficiency anemia, in these cases, the dietary poor intake of iron or intestinal absorption of the iron or abnormal loss of the iron from the body in during the menstruation or during the hemorrhagic also, iron requirements such as during the pregnancy and lactational period will be increases, and the RBC in this condition are very smaller than the normal and have the increased zone of central pallor. This is the indicative of the hypochromic anemia. And in aplastic anemia, mainly in aplastic anemia, the bone marrow is present inside our bone. And the aplastic means lack of functioning of the bone marrow, and this mainly can occur due to the excessive radiation or nuclear exposure, or sensitive to the drugs also, or chemical industries. They are affected by this type of anemia. It is called as the aplastic anemia. And the last one is the hemorrhagic anemia. This hemorrhagic anemia is otherwise called as the bloodless anemia. It's mainly the body replaces the plasma within the 1 to 3 days after the hemorrhagic, but this leaves a low concentration of RBC. In the chronic blood loss, a person frequently cannot absorb enough iron from the intestinal to form the hemoglobin as rapidly as it is lost. Okay, that is called as the hemorrhagic anemia, or it is otherwise called as the blood loss anemia. Priyampada, are you there? Shwam Prabha,
Yes, ma'am.
how many types of anemia?
Ma'am, 5 types: hemolytic, megaloblastic, hemorrhagic,
Very good.
hypothermic, and
Last one.
last one,
Last one.
I forgot.
No?
Ma'am, I forgot that.
Swati.
Yes, ma'am.
Last one.
Ma'am,
Sumit.
iron deficiency anemia, megaloblastic anemia, hemorrhagic anemia, hemolytic anemia, and aplastic anemia.
Very good. Priyambada, is it your first class? Okay. This is all about your anemia, and and the morphological classification of the anemia. Morphological means structural classification of the anemia, mainly the normochromic and the hypochromic. Normocytic, macrocytic, and microcytic anemia. Normocytic means in the normochromic anemia, acute hemorrhagic cases, it is called as the normocytic, and the hypochromic anemia, the chronic hemorrhagic. In macrocytic is in all the megaloblastic anemia, that is mainly because of the vitamin B12 deficiency and the folic acid deficiency. In hypochromic anemia, it's mainly commonly seen in the liver disorder cases. In the microcytic anemia, chronic infection must be there. And in hypochromic anemia, iron deficiency thalassemia is also there. Hypochromic means what? Less than the normal color. Mainly the decrease the hemoglobin content, it is called as the hypochromic. Microcytic means smaller than the normal size. Micro means small and macro means large. All of you know about that. And the hyperchromic means more than the normal color, means increase the hemoglobin content. And the microcytic is the smaller size, and the normochromic is the normal color. And mainly the disease condition which mainly present in the macrocytic normochromic anemia and the macrocytic normochromic anemia. First one is the normochromic normocytic anemia, acute blood loss, and the hemolytic anemia mainly occurs. And in the microcytic normochromic, neoplastic, it is the neoplastic cases. And the microcytic hypochromic, the mainly iron deficiency anemia in the thalassemia cases, or the sideroblastic anemia.
Ma'am, is normocytic and normochromic anemia is different?
What?
Ma'am, normocytic or normochromic anemia is different or same?
Normocytic is one type of anemia, and microcytic normochromic is another type of anemia. In these two cases, that mainly in the pernicious anemia, and due to the deficiency of the any kind of dietary deficiency like the folic acid or the chronic any kind of CLD cases, chronic liver disorder cases, the macrocytic normochromic anemia is very common. But in the hemolytic anemia cases or the acute blood loss cases, you will got the normochromic normocytic anemia. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Hemostasis. What is hemostasis? All of you know that hem means the blood and stasis is the standing. Okay. Hemostasis. Hemostasis. What do you mean by hemostasis? Hemostasis means is the balance of the physiological process. Okay. Balance of the physiological process, which on one hand prevent mainly the excessive bleeding after the vessels injury, blood vessels injury, and on the other hand, the maintain a viable circulation by keeping the blood in a uncoagulated state. Mainly, the platelet are involved in almost all the stage of homeostasis. Okay, mainly the clot formation will be occurred due to the presence of this platelet only, and homeostasis is mainly divided into four components. First one is the vessels constriction, second one is the fibrinolysis, third one is the coagulation, and the last one is the platelet function. What is coagulation? Coagulation is nothing. Coagulation is the process. Mainly it includes process leading to the formation of fibrin. Fibrin is nothing. Fibrin is the when your blood will be oozing from the particular side and it will be stored in the particular place. If you will be put your fingers and just you saw the thread-like structure will you come out from that blood. That is the fibrinal part of the blood, and this fibrin get in order to format of this fibrinal
Ma'am, voice is not audible.
what?
Yes, ma'am.
Soumya Prabha, is there any problem?
Ma'am, I couldn't hear your voice now. It's breaking.
May audible. In the hemostasis, mainly four components is there. One is the vessels constriction, and the second one is the platelet function, third one is the coagulation, and last one is your fibrinolysis. Am I audible?
Yes,
you. Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
तो क्या प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है? बीच बीच में तो सुनाई देता है ना, नहीं सुनाई देता है आप लोगों को?
मैम, मुझे अभी थोड़ा पहले मतलब थोड़ी देर पहले नहीं सुनाई दे रहा था, अब ठीक है.
पुष्पांजलि?
Yes, madam. It's audible, but sometimes it's breaking the voice. Madam.
Okay, due to the network issue only.
Yes, ma'am. Maybe.
Actually, I am at a hospital, due to that only network problem is going on here. Okay, and this platelet function. Mainly this process involves the formation of platelet plug at the site of the injury. जब इंजुरी होता है ना, at particular site of the injury ना, the platelet plug formation होता है, and due to the formation of that platelet plug, blood will be not oozes more from that side. Okay, and the vessels constriction mainly occurs after the vessels injury, and this is the beginning of the primary homeostasis, which leads to the protective vasoconstriction at the site of the injury in order to arrest the bleeding, and this is called as the bleeding time. Fibrinolysis means this the process involves the mainly this solution of blood clot, and the fibrinolytic system is the antagonist to the coagulation system. It dissolving the fibrin clots by the specific it is the Papura. Papura means a person who is yes. What do you mean by laceration? Laceration. Laceration.
Ma'am, voice is not audible clearly.
What I will do? Right now, audible? Okay, सबको hello? Hello? Okay.
Clear Subuni Kottoji.
Idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura, ITP. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Due to the network.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, I am at a hospital right now, so that's why here network problem is there. And idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. Idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura is the ITP. What do you mean by thrombocytopenia? Thrombocytopenic. Thrombocytopenic is nothing but it means the blood does not have the enough platelet. Due to the presence of platelet only, our blood will be blood clotting formation will be occur. Without the platelet, the blood will be not clot properly. And purpura means a person having the excessive bruising. Excessive bruising means excess loss of blood. And this ITP is called as the immunothrombocytopenic purpura. Next one is the transfusion of the blood. What is transfusion of the blood? Now, blood transfusion means the infusion of the blood or the blood components into an individual for the treatment of a medical condition. Like if someone is having the anemia or the loss of blood due to the injury, or the transfused blood may be homologous, means from the donor side, or the autologous. Autologous means previously stored blood from the recipient. Okay, and during the blood transfusion, two things will be happen, and you may be collected the blood from the donor side, and if you will be collected the blood from the donor side, it is called as the autologous, and donor side, that is the autologous. And it is also very important to note that the blood transfusion is only to be given when there is no alternative. Okay, and though the blood transfusion is very safe, and the main risk of the transfusion is being given the blood of the wrong group, or a smaller risk of catching an infection. If someone is having the any kind of infection, also it also causes the many disorder. And what is mainly blood is usually split up into the 4 separate components. That is the W, whole blood, red cells, platelet, and plasma. In plasma, the fresh frozen plasma is used after obstetric losses of the blood, which is usually during the childbirth, during the cardiac surgery, and to reverse an anticoagulant treatment. Anticoagulant means against the coagulation of the blood, that is the anticoagulant. And plasma is required during the after the childbirth or during the cardiac surgery also, and reverse any anticoagulant treatment. And that plasma part will be fresh frozen plasma is used after the obstetric loss of the blood. But in platelet, mainly this platelet bone marrow failures and the post transplant and the chemotherapy treatment and leukemia cases, these all are the intents when the platelet can be of huge benefits to the recipient. स्पेसिफिकली जब हमारा किसी का कोई केमोथेरापी चल रहा है और ल्यूकेमिया इज नथिंग, ल्यूकेमिया इज द ब्लड कैंसर. In that cases, or in some cases, the bone in blood will be not produce the properly bone marrow. In that cases also, in post transplant of some organ transplant होने की बाद भी we will use this platelet, and platelet is very highly required during the if someone is affected by the leukemia for the during the treatment of the chemotherapy, this platelet is highly required. And whole blood means in this very rarely used. Really, it's an instance of severe blood loss. Instead, it's almost always separated into its individual components. And the red cells this is mainly used in the treatment of all kinds of anemia, which cannot be medically corrected, such as if someone is affected by the RA, rheumatoid arthritis or the carcinoma, and when the red cells break down in the newborn, or if some that infants may be affected, or the children that are affected by the sickle cell anemia. In that cases also you can use that red cells. They are also essential to replace the lost red cells after such things, and accident, surgery, or after childbirth, or not to mention pre-op or the top-ups for existing the anemia patient, and for the born victim also we can use the red cells. Now I will discuss about the immune system. Immune system, mainly this immune system is two types of mechanism is mainly play a major role for the immune system. One is the specific defense mechanism, and the another one is the non-specific defense mechanism. In the specific defense mechanism, mainly the major histocompatibility complex and the antibodies plays the major role. And in the non-specific defense mechanism, external defense mechanism and the internal defense mechanism is there. In the innate immunity, mainly the phagocytosis, the complement system, the humoral mechanism, and specific acquired immunity, antibody mediated immune system, that is the AMIS, and the cell mediated immune system, that is the CMIS. One is the antibody mediated immune system, and the another one is the cell mediated immune system. And the lymphocytes mainly development, the regulation development of the granulocytes, growth factors which affect the granulopoiesis and the development of the granulocytosis. First I will discuss about the what is immune system. In our body, different types of cells is present, and different types of cells is, perform their different types of function, and mainly the significance in maintaining the immunity, and that is the vitality, that is body natural defense mechanism. It mainly against the foreign invaders. It's what makes blood so unique. Okay, and this mainly this immune defense mechanism, generally known as the immune mechanism. All the animals and the human beings are forced to encounter many dangerous microbes in their day-to-day life. And through water, air, and food inside our body, there is the amazing protective mechanism. It is called as the immune system. It works silently in our body for the entire life, but we probably know almost nothing about it. And mainly the immune system protects us in the three different way. Mainly, if the virus or the bacteria are able to reproduce and start causing the problem, our immune system is in charge of the eliminating it. It will try to fight against the virus or the bacteria. And if a bacterium or the virus does get into the body, the immune system tries to detect and eliminate it before it can make itself at home and reproduce it. And also it creates a barrier that mainly prevents the bacteria and virus from entering our body. Okay. And in the last class, I already discussed about the thymus. What is thymus? Last class, I already discussed about the thymus. No, what is thymus?
Ma'am, it is a gland.
Yes, very good.
Thyroid gland.
No, sir. Thyroid gland is different and thymus is different. Thymus,
It's an immune related gland which provides antibodies to
Thymus and
if someone
lymphatic
is
system.
yes, very good. It is the clean water of the body and the lymphatic drainage, and that is the thymus. It mainly thymus का ओसिफिकेशन जब होता है ना 8 years जब होता है ना बेबी, तब उनका प्रॉपर ओसिफिकेशन होता है. द थाइमस इज नथिंग, इट इज द व्हाट, लीफ ग्लैंड. And there are the mainly thymus, na. In thymus, the other that immune system mainly it includes the hormones, complement system, antibodies, bone marrow, lymph system, spleen, and the WBC. Okay, and these mainly this thymus is responsible for the producing the T cells. Okay, and it is especially important in the newborn baby. Without a thymus, a baby immune system collapses and the baby will die. Okay, thymus is a very important gland, especially to the maturation of the T cells, and specifically in the spleen. It filters the blood looking for the foreign cells, and a person missing their spleen gets sick much more often than someone with having the spleen. That's why bone marrow produces the new blood cells, that both the WBC, that red blood cell and the white blood cell. In the case of the RB red blood cells, the cells are fully formed in the bone marrow and then enter the bloodstream. In the case of some WBC, the cells mature elsewhere, and the bone marrow produces all the blood cells from the stem cells. Okay, and they are called as the stem cells because they can branch off and become many different types of cells, and they are the precursors of the different types of cells. And these stem cells are changes into the actual specific types of WBC. Okay, and it's a very amazing to know that the body develops many different types of defense mechanism. The study of the body defense mechanism against the invading
Ma'am, you're not audible.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, I am not audible.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking again.
Hello, it's not audible, madam.